A part of healing for a lot of people is distancing themselves from their parents. This whole thing of honor your parents, love your parents, take care of your parents is really bullshit. First of all, as part of becoming an adult, it's very important to create some physical distance between yourself and your parents so you can learn to be an adult. I did it, my kids have all done it, and I've encouraged it. Okay? However, there are many parents who are very dysfunctional. And in order for you to heal and become an adult and have a healthy relationship and have a healthy life, you have got to cut them off. I'm not telling you what to do, but I have seen people really not grow in their own healing because the same dysfunctional behaviors that they had to use as a child to protect themselves from their parents, they're still having to use. So they're constantly being triggered and they can't heal. And see, the reason a lot of you guys hate women and a lot of women hate men, if you love, if you love if you can love the opposite sex, you're giving in a relationship. You're there to see, how can I serve you? I see a man as my king. And I want to be around men who see me as a queen, but I didn't always because I was in the one down submissive position. You guys are on a channel from a woman who loves men and has gone for unavailable men. Not men who treated me badly, but they were emotionally unavailable. So I'm trying to change that. But I don't hate men, I like men. But on this channel, because I like men watch my videos, and I get women, I get men who hate women, and I know where that comes from because I work with people and I ask people about their relationships. It comes from hating your moms. And a lot of you have good reason to hate your moms. A lot of you had moms who neglected you. Instead of loving you and nurturing you, they neglected you. So you have abandonment wounds and you can't trust women. It's no wonder you had to protect yourself against being hurt. The good news is that with therapy, you can heal all that, but first you have to know your pattern. Or you had a nagging, controlling mom, so you had to protect yourself by being defiant. And whenever your wife asks you to do something, she reminds you of your nagging mom and you go off on her. You don't know this yet because you're just dating this girl. She's really cute, but you'll get there in time. Or you're married to a rager. She was super hot and sexy. You might still want to fuck her, but she goes off on you when you ask to turn the music down. Her reminds her of her abandonment issues, her controlling parents, or relatives. And one of the most harmful things I think in Landmark is they really encourage people to bond with their parents. I never got that, but they want people to heal their childhood trauma, but I think they're going about it in a very harmful way because they're asking people to rebond with their abusers. See, I have a good relationship with my kids. My kids like my company, but I don't tell them what to do or control them. I don't believe in that. I give them their freedom. So I know if a child is distanced from their parents, there's only one reason. If a child is distant from their parents, it's only for one reason, because the parent was a piece of shit. Too controlling, too manipulative, too intrusive, too abusive. The problem is you keep going back to those parents. I know people who are so committed to being in a relationship with a neglectful or narcissistic or abusive or boundary violating parent. And they think they're a good person. Hey, I have learned, I've I've heard this. I've learned how to be okay with my dad who constantly yells at me and belittles me. I've learned how to deal with it now. I finally have a relationship with my dad. I've learned how to deal with it. This is not me saying this, is somebody in my family saying this about my dad. Um, I learned how to deal with it by not letting myself get offended or just making jokes or making allowances. You're letting yourself be abused. And you cannot grow personally as long as you let yourself be abused, especially by your parents, who are the reason that you had to adapt and allow yourself to be abused. This particular person I'm talking about is a rager and volatile in her relationships. there's no way she can heal as long as she's still looking for a relationship with her abusive, controlling father. I'm very inspired today because I happened to speak with someone on a coaching call, and he had independently never done any therapy or anything, distanced himself from his abusive family, because I was trying to figure out how he had already made so much progress. He had distanced himself from his abusive family, and then he started saying, well, what do I want in life, and going after things, and he's a completely transformed person, a young man. I was very inspired by him. So that's what makes me. I also have some friends who are very struggling, with something, and she's still trying to have a relationship with her mother, her abusive mother, because she thinks that makes her a better person, or that way she wants her children to have a relationship with their grandmother. I'm starting to believe, this is just my own thesis here, that as long as you're still, I know that people who have not made peace in their relationship with their parents are going to have a chip on their shoulder against the opposite sex or the same sex, for sure. And I really believe it's not possible to heal as long as you're still trying to figure out how to be okay with people treating you like crap. Oh, I've done this for years myself. I only recently cut off my family, and I didn't realize how powerful that was. Because I was like, I can deal with it. My family wasn't abusive, but they would come to me. I'm the one people would come to. Because I was the one who had it together. I was strong. I was the mediator. People would come to me. I was the big sister. I was the favorite daughter of my dad. People would come to me, and I would even gaslight my siblings. Because I got along with him, and I'd be like, well, I get along with him. I don't know why you can't get along with him. And my brother would always say, Shahrzad, he's abusive. And my dad is abusive to my brother and my sister. And I mean, he's just volatile. He'll fly off the handle for the littlest thing. You drink too much water. You slam the cupboards too loud. Just bullshit. He's just volatile. And I would tell them, well, just get along with him. Now I realize I was gaslighting them. My brother's right, he is abusive. Now my brother and sister are still trying to have a relationship with him. I think they should stop looking to him for love when he's volatile. It's not good to be around people who abuse you. And I'm doing that now in my bookkeeping business. It's really become clear that as I reworded my bookkeeping ad recently, and I started really noticing more, like as I started being kinder in my ad and more inviting, and I started noticing that the type of clients I want care about their discretion and safety, so they're careful about who they see. They read the ad carefully, and they have empathy. They care how a woman feels because they have empathy. Those are the men I want. I'm tired of men who want to, like after my divorce, the guys that just fucked me and ran off, fuck you. Of course they were young. Maybe they didn't know better, but the older guys didn't do that. Actually, the older guys don't do that. It's just the younger guys that would do that. Nonetheless, it's just my own stuff I'm working on, that I only want to deal with men who care how I feel. Because I care how people feel. I try to be really nice to people and kind to people. I try. And when I'm not, I know I'm not. But some of these people coming at me, I'm like, you don't deserve me to be nice to you because you're being mean. So what I'm trying to get at is we all have to get to a point, like grandiose people, there's no help for grandiose people. They're just belligerent. I don't have a problem. If you have a problem, that's your fault. But the rest of us who are trying to improve ourselves in our relationships, I think it's important to be like, how do I want to be treated? And also, how do I treat other people? I think we have to be open to feedback. If someone gives us feedback, we have to be willing to hear it. But I'm like, how do I want to be treated? That's really it, because I didn't always allow myself to be treated as good as I should have. That's why I made that video, What Can a Man Do For Me? Because I'm used to doing things for a man and not being selective enough in who I let into my life with guys that didn't care about how I felt. A big thing for me was learning that I should care how I should only interact with men who care how I feel. You should be nice to me. And how can I work on just being around people who care how I feel when I'm still entangled with family members who don't care how I feel? Who don't care how I feel. That's why I cut my brother and sister off. They're not able to care how I feel. Not because they hate me. They do really love me. Actually, they do. But they just have a lot of dysfunctional patterns that are not okay with me. And they don't want to do any therapy because, they're just don't want to. And my idea is, well, I'm here for you if you can be kind and respectful, but I'm not going to be available to you just because you want to dump your shit on me. Not just because initially I was like for my own growth to see what it feels like, but now I realize that, it's better for them to give them some boundaries. Like, yeah, I'll have a relationship with you. You just have to honor my boundaries and not dump your crap all over me or think you can just go off on me and not apologize because you're a person who doesn't apologize, for example. But some people deal with narcissistic parents or really controlling parents or alcoholic parents, parents who abused you and have never apologized. You don't have to forgive your parents. Forgiveness will come naturally if you want, but you have to heal yourself. You don't have to forgive your parents. I don't think we should force people to forgive their abusers. And a lot of people were very abused. I hear the stories. A lot of people were very abused. Now, the good news is you can heal, but it's not going to come from your parents. A lot of people make the mistake of looking for their parents to give them the love now that they didn't have, but that's not going to help. The only way to heal what you didn't get in childhood is for you to give it to yourself. That's the only way to heal. And until you heal that part, it's going to come out in your relationships. It's going to come out in you hate women or you hate men, or it's going to come out in your reactivity in relationships. So say your mom abandoned you in some way because she ran off with some guy. And now every time your wife tells you no to sex or says she doesn't really like the color of the sofa, you get super triggered because it's an emotional flashback to your abandoning mom. Your wife now becomes your abandoning mom, and you go off on her and rage on her, and you thought you never would, but now you've become your abusive dad. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, but you don't know you're going to become your abusive dad because you're single. Or if you are, you don't know why, but this is the stuff that happens. So a beginning point, I really think, is a lot of people have trouble in therapy, and it's in this book too. A big thing is for people to admit where their parents harmed them or failed them or didn't do the right thing, but people don't want to admit it. Even abused children will protect their parents. Read a book called A Child Called It. It's a story of a man who wrote the book. It's fascinating reading. It was the most abused child in California history. And whenever, the Child Protective Services would come to the school, the mom would be notified ahead of time and she'd start being really nice to him. And he so much wanted his mom to love him, he always said his mommy was nice. But she would stab him, and she was nasty. In the end, he ended up forgiving her. I don't know how he did it. But my point being that a big thing that people have to do is come to grips with, these are the things my parent didn't do. And you don't have to blame your parent, you can just blame the pattern. You have to be honest and realize what you didn't get. And some of you, if you were abused, you know you were abused. But if you didn't get emotional comfort, you don't know what you didn't get. So here are some things. When you were a little boy or a little girl and you came home from school, or mommy or daddy came home and saw you, their face should light up and say, "Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you." If you were sick, your parent was there to take you to the doctor and comfort you. If you were crying, a little boy crying because your friend didn't want to play with you, mommy should be comforting you. Mommy should be giving you a lot of hugs, back rubs, and be a consistent, reliable caretaker. Mommy doesn't run off with other men. Mommy doesn't get drunk and ignore you. Mommy doesn't lay in bed with depression. She's there for you, and she's a stable, reliable source of love. And you can go to her for comfort. She doesn't spy on your stuff. She gives you your own space. She encourages you to follow your interests and your hobbies. Sometimes she loses her patience, and then she'll apologize. She models to you, I was wrong, I'm sorry. She feeds you healthy food, she cares about you, and she's so happy she had you, and you feel that in your bones. And to the extent you didn't get that, you may hate women. I don't really know what a dad is supposed to do, because my dad was a piece of shit. I just felt that he loved me. This is the interesting thing for me. So my mom was a codependent, very loving mom, stay-at-home mom. Very sweet. She's still very sweet. She's in her late 80s. She's like the sweetest, sweetest, sweetest. My dad was kind of controlling and volatile. I felt loved by him. So that's where it got weird for me. It's like men who love me don't care how I feel. I would just get annoyed with him for being so volatile. In fact, I would get annoyed with my parents all the time. Be like, I know they love me and they're super nice, except for my dad who was gone a lot, but they keep telling me what to do, so I can't wait to be an adult. I kind of felt like Pippi Longstocking. So in this book, this is a really, really good book. He has so many chapters, and they're all titled, and there's something in there about parents. Shrinking the inner critic, shrinking the outer critic, healing abandonment, a lot of case studies, toolboxes, recovering from trauma-based codependency, managing emotional flashbacks. But the point here is, I wanted to find the part about the parents, parentifying. You have to be able to leave your parents behind. God, I wish I could find it now. You have to be able to leave your parents behind and separate yourself from your parents. I don't know where it is now. And if you can actually cut them off, if they're not adding to your life, if they make you feel guilty for saying no, if they're pushy. Now, there's some people that will never be able to separate from their parents, and that's the parentified child. They're just a lost cause. They've become, the boy has become mommy's little husband, emotional incest. He's just lost. He can never have a relationship because mommy's too jealous and possessive. He has stunted personal development. The same thing when a woman becomes daddy's little girl. No man can ever be good enough. She's going to have trouble bonding with a man. But I think a lot of adulting, you might want to look around internal family systems, family of origin work, parentification. See, if you feel responsible for your parents' feelings, you were intruded upon, and you're not going to want a relationship, because relationships feel intrusive, because you were traumatized as a child, and instead of being loved, your parents made you responsible for their feelings. It's called being parentified, and relationships feel suffocating. If you were abandoned as a child, relationships seem scary. All women are cheaters. All women are just out for your money. If you weren't loved by your mother, you're going to see all women as cheaters, gold diggers, and you will have to objectify them and control them and see what they can do for you as a way of self-protection. And I want to be kind to you, because you had to see women as things you could control and objectify to protect yourself. But once you don't need to protect yourself, once you can stop guarding yourself, because you're not a child anymore that has to protect itself from mommy or daddy. You're not a child anymore. It's called the adaptive child, that's coming from guarding, manipulating, controlling. You're not a child anymore, and women are not your nagging mother, controlling mother. You're an adult, so you can act like an adult. So this is all part of what therapy can offer you. You can go and get a good therapist, a trauma-based therapist. I highly recommend any of you getting into relationships to make peace with the relationship with your parents. And if they're not adding to your life, you absolutely have to end those relationships. In my opinion, consider it. Just consider it. You don't have to do what I say. This book is really good. It's a self-guide book through healing trauma. And I think it's good for everyone to read because I get little insights. I'm like, oh, I just need to make sure that. And when I have better boundaries, I'm like, you have to care how I feel to talk to me. I don't get so triggered anymore around men contacting me as a bookkeeper in a way that I felt like I had to answer to them or be nice to them. I'm like, well, you don't care how I feel, so I don't want to talk to you. So I don't get triggered anymore. It took me 6 years to get to this point, and I feel like I got there now. It's all from doing like this kind of stuff, and that was just a little trigger. I'm not super reactive in relationships. I'm more like I like to get along with people, and I'm like, well, what can I do to make this relationship work? Or okay, this person got triggered, so what do we need to work on so we can get along better? I'm more like a cooperative type of person, but I think it's because I felt loved by both of my parents. I just had to do some fine tuning around being more choosy which men I allow into my life. And that's why, I try to be like, well, you don't deserve my attention. Not because I'm grandiose and entitled, but because it's been my way of having better boundaries. But I definitely noticed a huge shift in how I felt when I started cutting off family members that weren't bringing me forward or adding to my life or having healthy boundaries, because I feel like you're an adult. You can go to therapy. You're not entitled to be a piece of shit and dump on me just because you're my family member. I mean, you should treat me better than strangers, not worse. But your family members can keep you trapped in dysfunction, and they're not cut off for good. It's like, well, if you want to be nice, then here, I'm here. I didn't. They're not cut off for good. They're welcome to come back into my life when they stop having contempt or feeling entitled to dump on me, or whatever pattern it is that I don't like. It's like interacting with you doesn't feel healthy to me. So if you're looking for personal development, mental health, uh, evaluating the relationship with family is a good place to start, and with friends. Like, what kind of friends do I have in my life? Are they adding to my life or taking away from my life? Do they have healthy boundaries? Um, do they reply to me? Do they respect me? Are they nice to me? And I don't mind when I have a little tiff with a friend. It gives me an opportunity to work things out. Anyway, that's all I want to say on parents. Is like, I'm going to call this, are your parents worthy of being in your life? As a mother, I'm very aware of that my kids could just stop talking to me. So I want to be a person that they want to talk to by not being controlling. I still encourage them. I stay out of their way. And I'll be like, do you like me to call you or not? Like, it's a different relationship now that they're all adults. They're all on their own. And I welcome their significant others into my life. I don't try to get in the middle. I encourage my kids' relationships and try to have and do have relationships with their significant others. So it's not a competition. I want to be someone that makes their life better. But anyway, I thank you for watching my video, and I hope you guys leave your comments if you want.